How do digital nomads spend months, if not years, in countries like Thailand or Indonesia without holding a long stay visa? The secret answer to this question? Visa runs, or as they are also called, border runs. So in today's video, that is admittedly a lot different from my usual videos, we will look at the following questions. What is a border run or a visa run? What are the benefits? What are the risks? Why would you consider a digital nomad visa instead? And what are options if you do neither want to do a border run or do a digital nomad visa? As usual, the timestamps are down below, so if you want to jump to a specific point in the video, you will be able to do so in the description. Okay, so what is a border run? Many digital nomads travel on tourist visas. For the simple reason that these are oftentimes easier to attain. Either you get one depending on your passport strength, you get one on arrival, you might not even need one, they are usually cheaper, and you don't need to fulfill any prerequisites. It also oftentimes allows you to take family members or dependents because they too can just enter on a tourist visa. The problem with these tourist visas are that they are usually short-term visas, meaning for the purpose of tourism, so oftentimes somewhere between 30 and 90 days. What now if you decide you want to stay in a location for longer? Well, one way that many digital nomads do so is to do a border or visa run, meaning that when your visa expires or when their visa expires, they exit the country to a neighboring country where they ideally spend a couple of days and then re-enter the country on a new tourist visa. So you exit the country, you get an exit stamp on your tourist visa, and then you re-enter the country and you kind of reset the clock. You get a new tourist visa that then again allows you to stay for whatever time, 90 days let's say. And you basically do this indefinitely. What are the benefits of this? Well, the benefits are quite simple really. A tourist visa allows you to, like I said, obtain a visa easier if you need a visa at all, and the border run allows you to stay in a country almost indefinitely. Tourist visas are cheaper, particularly if you have a weaker passport. You might be able to get a tourist visa over a long stay visa, and it allows you to, quickly and without a lot of hassle, without a lot of visits to embassies, travel certain countries. Okay, so if it is so perfect, then what are the risks and pain points, and are there any? And yes, there are some. First one, if you assume that you would stay in that country for a longer time, you will most likely have booked a more permanent accommodation. If you go on your visa run, then you will probably not take all your belongings with you. You are still, however, at the mercy of the border guards. Let's say the border guards check your passport and see that you've had, been entering the country on a tourist visa for the past 2 years. They might question you and they might refuse to let you in. I mean, border police are probably very aware of this practice, and if a country decides to crack down a little bit on immigration, for example because they have a digital nomad scheme that they would like to promote instead, then they might hinder you from coming back, and then you are there with your belongings in a country that you right now can't get to. Another problem might be that on a tourist visa you might not be able to, for example, open bank accounts, sign rental agreements and stuff like that. If you have kids, you might not be able to get your kids into the school system if that is something that you would like to do. Whereas digital nomad visas oftentimes allow this. So in terms of paperwork and barriers, a long stay visa oftentimes allows you to be a more integrated member of society than a tourist visa does, since technically you are supposed to just be there for a short time. Which brings us to the next problem. Technically on a tourist visa you are not allowed to work. Now, many digital nomads do this anyway because, since the income is often generated digitally, who's gonna prove it? Or, it's a lot harder to prove. But one thing that one should keep in mind here is taxes. So oftentimes, or many countries have a tax regime where they count you as a tax resident if you stay for 183 days out of a year. Now, if you are re-entering a country and you've technically stayed in a country more than 183 days out of a year, you become a tax resident there. Now you have a problem in taxation terms, because you are there on a visa that technically doesn't allow you to work, yet you're having generated income over that time that is taxable in that country. I am not a tax lawyer, I'm not a tax expert. I'm just saying, if a country really wanted to build a case against you, then you would have a problem with all these loopholes that you've been going through to explain where the income comes from. So you've been illegally working on a visa that is not allowing you to work, you've been potentially not paying taxes that you would have had to pay. So there's a lot of legal little gray zones that you need to be aware of, and then decide if you're comfortable of living in them. Which brings us to the next question of why would you then consider a digital nomad visa? By the way, if you want to know the detailed difference between a digital nomad visa and a tourist visa, check out this video up here where I go into more detail. But yeah, why would you then maybe consider a digital nomad visa? Well, number one, if you want to avoid all the hassle I mentioned above. Number two, some countries restrict entries on a tourist visa in a given time. So for example, the US will allow you to enter 180 days out of 1 year on a tourist visa. The Schengen region allows you to enter 90 days out of 180 days. So in those regions, a visa run or a border run isn't possible. Because you always have to wait out your clock to reset before you can re-enter the country on another tourist visa. And thirdly, some digital nomad visa offer tax breaks. So how to stay in the country longer than without a digital nomad visa and without having to go on border runs? Well, if you want to Slowmad, if you want to avoid the hassle of going on border runs and you maybe don't qualify for a digital nomad reason for one reason or another, be that because you have an entry on your criminal record, or you don't meet the income statements or the income requirements or anything else, your option would be to visit some of the countries that have a very open and generous visa regime. Some of them I've actually made digital nomad destination guides on in my channel. For example, Svalbard, where you can stay visa free forever as long as you can prove that you can finance yourself. For example, Albania, where for example US citizens get to stay 1 year visa free. Georgia, that basically allows you to stay visa free indefinitely. So there are a couple of countries that allow you to enter with many passports and stay visa free for a very long time without the need for a digital nomad visa, and have very generous visa policies. Mexico too, for example, has a tourist visa for 180 days. Although apparently they have gotten a bit more strict with having to prove that you're really a tourist during those 180 days. But those are options of how you can stay in a country for longer without having to go on a visa run or getting a digital nomad visa. So I hope, while being different from my usual videos, this was a helpful little Digital Nomad Tip Friday for you, that helps you to, navigate the whole visa situation that I think is one of the biggest pain points of this lifestyle and travel, aside from internet connectivity, and that you got value out of this. Thanks a lot, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.